And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Westeros Ninja channel. This is another edition of our top five streams with my special guest here, Dawg from the Dawg Show. How's it going, Dawg?
Doing great, Milt. Great to be back here again for another Ninja and the Dawg Show presents. Been looking forward to this one. This will be a real fun experience for us tonight. Get to talk about some WTF moments in the history of Game of Thrones. I know we have a bunch of them in here, amongst us as a community. And yeah, be sharing our top five tonight. And looking forward to it, my friend.
Yeah, and
they're always fun.
Yeah, and no, we try to avoid like the really obvious, WTF moments, like the entirety of season 5 and Dorne and things like that. But I mean, we had a lot of fun with this, and it's gonna be a surprise, at least for Dawg, in terms of what I came up with. But yeah, when I was making these slides, at least for me, some of these scenes and moments were just so horrible that I had to actually rationalize it, not emotional, without any kind of emotion, actually through, realism. And there was actually some math in here. So I hope you guys enjoy the math part in a couple of my slides, because then, you'll really know how unrealistic and silly some of these situations were. And what about you, Dawg? How did you go about with these WTF moments?
Yeah, I'm going to get into that, but I just wanted to say quickly before I forget, because I'm old, I'm looking forward to this math part. So, yeah, I'm really definitely looking forward to that. My criteria, folks, and right away when we started talking about doing this, I was doing my brainstorming, had the notebook out, and I was like, my top six actually just like popped in my head, right? So I just kind of put the initials down of what these things were, and then by the time I got through about another 20 of them or so, because these things were just so blatantly stupid, obvious to me, that just really irritated me at times, right? Yeah, so I had about a list of 20, but by the time I got done with it, I had my original 6, if you will. So the original 6 that I had, my first instincts were used tonight. So I'll be sharing those with you. And again, yeah, I didn't want to go with the obvious. I'm going to use everything in season 5 except for episode 8, Hard Home, right? So I mean, I think episode 8 kind of saved season 5 there, but it's kind of like the Last Jedi to me of seasons.
Yeah, and also, I mean, this isn't going to be a stream where we're just trashing the show, because even with these outrageous scenes, it's still probably one of the best shows in television history. So I think we can all agree on that. And before we get going, I just wanted to basically state like the top WTF moment for today, and that is, believe it or not, the Cleveland Browns are still in the playoff hunt. So
let's go Browns. Got the dog pound going. They're back, playing some defense. Looking tough.
Winning 4 out of 5
too. So
yeah. So So go Browns, guys. So I think we should get started now with it's basically we're gonna present our top 5, but we each have a dishonorable mention slide, and we're gonna go with Dawg's first. And take it away, Dawg.
All right. So my dishonorable mention, folks, was the use of the George W. Bush mask, right? I guess, yeah, what do you call it? Like a Halloween mask, right? They used for one of the Stark lords or members of the house, right, that were put on pikes, right, next to Ned Stark's head and stuff, right? So the excuse was that they had no other heads or something, and there was basically no intention to get political, if you will. I didn't mean to get political with this either. It's not like I'm a big, huge George W. Bush fan. If they had Bill Clinton's head, on there too, I would have, gone the same route, and this still would have made my list, because I think it just so blatantly, it's a real slap in the face to the fans when you really look at it, right? The folks that were really looking forward to the show, or had, gone through, to this point, up to the show, and it's just like, oh, they'll just buy into anything, right? And yeah, just use next time we'll just use the Cookie Monster's head, maybe, and maybe that they'll just buy that too. So they actually had to come out and apologize for doing this, and I just think it's so blatantly WTF that it had to be part of it. It was something that popped in my head.
Yeah, I mean, I love that picture and Dan and Dave looking so smug.
Right.
Is that from like, GQ or something? I mean, what's going on with that? So where'd you actually get that pic from?
Yeah, I got a bunch of them, man. I just went around and looked, and I got a nice feeling of Dan and Dave throughout my slides here, and just I kind of used my creativity, if you will.
Yeah, and that head really doesn't look like Ned at all. I mean, it's like it's sort of like it's almost that head that Davos would have used, to fake out the phrase in a Dance with Dragons in Davos 4. So, to pretend that it was actually him and not just some like criminal that they executed. Anyway, so for my dishonorable mention, there's nothing else. Okay, and this almost made my top 5, but it missed out because there were some really bad moments. And this is what I call the dragon deal done wrong or gone wrong. It's basically about Krasny's Naklaws, who was one of the wise ones in Astapor. He was the guy that made the deal with Dany to basically buy the Unsullied in the show in season 3. And I mean, I swear, this guy must have been like, the worst businessman of all time, because he went in there to sell an army for a dragon with absolutely no guards around him except for a couple of advisors, no collateral because evidently he thought Dany had a lot of credit, and basically with no guards, no collateral, evidently it's no problem for this guy, and you know what happened. So basically he has no army, he has nobody, pointing a crossbow at Dany just in case she does something. And right at the end, when he actually, gets Drogon on the leash, all of a sudden, basically she just says Dracarys, basically light him a flame, and he's like, all surprised. What? You speak Valyrian? So it's like, dude, I mean, if I was a smart businessman or a powerful person in Astapor, wouldn't I have like at least 3 or 4 trained archers, just basically pointing my bow right at Dany in case she does anything funny? Because if we even hear her say that, they would just let loose the bow, the arrows right on her, and she would just die. But evidently, this guy didn't, have enough forethought for that, and he is basically the worst businessman of all time, and he got roasted for it.
He certainly did, and when you really dissect it, that guy was he's pretty stupid. I understand why it's your WTF moment here. I do want to point out one thing though, right? This particular scene is the one that absolutely cemented me into being a fan of this show. So even though like some things are WTF, folks, like I said, this is still the best show on television. But yeah, when Dany started spitting that Valyrian language and just kind of telling Dothraki to just destroy all the masters and free all the slaves and all that stuff, I was getting that little bit of adrenaline feeling there. And this particular scene was the one that just cemented me to being like, I absolutely love this show. But when you really dissect, the logistics of what's really happening here, right? Yeah. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So, but I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely cool, especially the special effects of Drogon basically just roasting, the wise master. I mean, I don't know why they call him wise masters, because evidently, he wasn't that wise in this deal. So anyway, that is my dishonorable mention of the night. So we can get on now with our top 5 lists. And Dawg, take it away with number 5.
Yeah, and my number 5 here is probably what I think to be probably the worst love scene in the history of television. Perhaps of all time. I just, first of all, in the context of what's really happening here, right? Like, what was it, just like a scene before, right? Ghost had to come in and save, Gilly basically from being attacked by those 2 scumbags, right? And, next thing let's get it on, that's kind of happening here, right? And, the oh my. And I just thought it was really cartoonish. And this is like one of those scenes, like when I rewatch the show or something, I have to fast forward through Sam and Gilly, pretty much until we get up to like the kind of the more recent things, like on season 7, right? Yeah, I had to pretty much just kind of fast forward through Sam and Gilly. I don't know what it is about this scene, folks, but it just irritates. And there's been some bad love scenes. Boat sex even comes to mind too. But at least I had the great score in the background too, so I kind of took a little bit off of it. But yeah, because there's been some kind of Dario and Danny kind of stuff or whatever. That's pretty bad too. Come to think of it, but. Yeah, this one is the one that just it came to mind. I was just like, this really irritates me. It doesn't feel like Game of Thrones to me, and in the context of what was happening prior to it, it didn't make any sense for what was going on. I just think we could have done better.
Yeah, I think even the Grey Worm Masande love scene was probably done better than this scene was. And and I was just curious about that quote that Sam was saying, "Oh my." So was he saying "Oh my" because he was feeling something that he's never felt before, or was it like more like, oh my, the Viagra's working? I mean, what's going on here? It's like some guy, it's like Sam's having sex, right?
In the Night's Watch, like she just kind of lives with him in there too, or what's going on with that? Like,
yeah, well, I mean,
nobody ever says nobody's onto that or says anything about it. It just,
yeah. I mean, I guess the only thing that would make
out together, and I know they mention it and things of that nature, but I don't know, folks. It's just one of those scenes that just bugged me.
I think the only thing that would have made it worse is if we had like a shot of Ghost, like at the end of the scene, like looking at it and basically, because if we had a shot of Ghost, then we could have said, oh, maybe that's a Ward John as a beeping Tom or something like that. I don't know. Just.
Oh, can you imagine the theory videos that would have came out with that?
Yeah, it's a Ward
in there. Oh, John was there the whole time.
Yeah, maybe John will start coaching him.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So it's a pretty bad love scene, but it was true love because he did save her from the other Night's Watchmen, right? With help from Ghost, but
I'm like okay with them with these two getting together and things of that nature, but I don't know, the scene's so bad. And then like when you look at maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, right? But they do end up kind of hooking up, right? But that's like an old town, right?
Yeah. They actually hook up in a Dance of Dragons on a boat going to Old Town, and basically Maester Aemon's died, and he's like being preserved in a cask of rum. But they are hooking up during that time.
Yeah, they're not like in some apartment in Castle Black though, right? In front of everybody, right? Not. It's kind of like they're heading out as refugees kind of thing, right?
Nah. They were going out to Old Town for him to become a maester.
Right.
But yeah, it was another example of both sex. So all right. So for my number 5 is none other than the nerfing of 1-1. And I'm not sure if everybody knows what the term nerfing is, but nerfing is a term that they commonly use in video games, where the first release of a video game, you might have some unbeatable character that is ultra powerful, and then the video game developers then put out a patch to basically make this character not as powerful and weaker so people can beat him. And this is exactly what happened in 1-1. My man 1-1, okay? Because in season 5, when he's fighting the whites in Hardhome, he goes, he's like this badass, and he has this flaming tree. He's just basically wiping away all the whites, right? In that first GIF on the top. And then all of a sudden, season 6, at the Battle of the Bastards, he doesn't have a weapon anymore. He's basically just, standing there, with the rest of the John's army, and basically he's enclosed by the shield wall. I'm going 1-1. I mean, if he had a club or something like that, you can just break that shield wall to pieces. Even without a club, he could just basically ran right through a shield wall. Okay, because evidently spears don't hurt him. Arrows don't hurt him. Okay, then that same episode, he gets nerfed even more by becoming basically a gigantic pincushion. Okay, so he basically takes out the doors of Winterfell. And when you look at him, you have all these freaking arrows on top of him, like a freaking gigantic pincushion. Okay, and then finally, at the coup de grace, he basically goes out like a chump with an arrow through the eye. Of course, I don't know why Ramsay shot 1-1 through the eye when Jon Snow was right next to him, and they could have just ended the war by basically Ramsay Bolton just basically shooting the arrow at Jon Snow. But Jon Snow has plot armor, right? So things like that don't happen. So, in my estimation, 1-1 goes from a level 10 in season 5 to a level 2, okay, in the Battle of the Bastards, and basically to, basically a novice gameplay, a giant that anybody can beat at level 0. And that's just too bad, because you killed off a badass giant here. If he had a club, he would be totally unstoppable, or any kind of weapon.
Yeah, I totally agree with every single point you made there, Mel. I would also like to add, does 1-1 know how to use range attacks too? Like, like we saw the other giant, he had like one of those big giant bows, right? And that thing shot like big,
Well, yeah, I don't know, because evidently if he didn't know to use one, he didn't take it down to Winterfell, on the trip, on the way down.
He could have shot like one of them big, huge arrows with like fire or something, and but look at him swinging that freaking tree, right? And
exactly.
like there's like trees all around those guys, behind him and stuff like that. What, he couldn't just like pick up a tree and just start, beating that whole entire line down? And
exactly,
the way they just kind of have him go into the gate like that, kind of Leroy Jenkins style sort of thing. I was like, then the things that lead, even dissecting it further, right? Why doesn't he shoot Jon right away?
Exactly. Yeah, that's another like a sub WTF moment in this whole scene. Why didn't Ramsay just shoot Jon and the war been over at that point?
And then even further to that, right? After he shoots 1-1, why aren't all those wildlings just lighting Ramsay up? So it's like, we had that plot of, so yeah, that's. I definitely see your point here. So yeah, it was too bad what happened to 1-1. They just didn't utilize them like they should have, basically, right?
Yeah, they
I liked your pin cushion examples. Absolutely perfect, spot on, my friend.
Yeah, they totally nerfed this guy, I think, to basically have a dramatic death at the end of the battle.
I remember, Nerf footballs and basketballs and stuff of that nature before Nerfing was a thing in gaming.
Yeah.
That's how old I am.
I think I had a Nerf football too. Did it have Nerf frisbees?
Didn't have like real footballs or something, or you break the windows or something, or.
Yeah. And all that foam would just rot, right? If you just kind of like let it outside.
Yeah, or or the dogs would get to it too and chew it all up too, and then it'd be all over the yard and stuff. And
anyway, enough about 1-1. Let's go to Dawg's number 4, and it is what?
And my number 4, folks, is Arya Hota getting taken out like a absolute level 1 noob, as we're going back to some gaming references here, right? And this made my list because prior to this happens in season 6, right? I want to say this is season 6, episode 1. I think this is where this happens, this particular scene, right? Season 5, as we previously talked about, how it's probably one of the worst seasons.
Yep.
I just remember Arya Hota's name being brought up a lot in the in the community chats and things of that nature, right? And how much of a badass fighter he is, and all the things of that nature, right? And this is what we got, right? Was him just going out like an absolute level 1 noob, as the ninjas said previously, with a letter opener.
Yeah. Yeah, so, talk about a total nerfing. I think Arya Hota was pretty much nerfed from the books. So. Yeah,
it's kind of like what they kind of did the 1-1 a little bit, but this is like absolutely blatantly obvious, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, going back to like the season 5 scene where he has a little standoff with Jaime. He's like, if you're a whole man, it would have been a better fight. And I'm saying no, it wouldn't. And I dare say that Jaime Lannister with one hand would probably take this guy out faster than this little sand snake here.
Yeah, I mean, Demon Master would basically just detach his golden hand and basically club Arya over the head with it. And Arya wouldn't have known what was going on. And that would have been it for Arya, because evidently he can get killed by a letter opener in the back. So...
But yeah, that made my number 5. I was it was really disappointing what they did with the Dorn series, and I'm proud to have something from Dorn on my list here. And I thought this is the one that stuck out in my head the most. Even as bad as some other things are in Dorn, this is the one that I think hurt me the most, and a lot of the fan base the most that I remembered that were Arya Hota fans.
Yeah,
I kind of would rather go ahead, Mel.
Nothing.
Okay.
I keep on talking, Dog, because I was going to get to my number 4, which just happens to be similar, and that is my number 4 is the Conquest of Dorne storyline, starring Ilaria Sand as Michael Corleone. Essentially, Aegon the Conqueror Conqueror could not conquer Dorne. Neither could Durin the First, the Young Dragon. But evidently, Ilaria Sand and 3 Sand Snakes can conquer Dorne by themselves, by just basically wiping out their enemies. And if you guys are familiar with The Godfather Part 1, Part 2, Michael Corleone has this great quote about, he doesn't feel he needs to wipe everybody out, just his enemies. And by doing that, he becomes all powerful. And this is exactly what happens to Ilaria Sand and the Sand Snakes. I mean, they basically wipe out Doran Martell, okay? In that first, picture. Didn't wipe out Arya Hota with the letter opener in the back. Then they get on the boat where Trystane Martell is without being sighted and basically kill him. Okay, so basically all the Martells are gone at this point. And for good measure, they also wipe out Myrcella Baratheon because Ellaria didn't like her because she's a Lannister. So basically, by just wiping out just these 4 people, she goes Michael Corleone and takes over Dorne, which is like maybe 4,000 square mile realm. Okay, with no resistance. So where the hell is House Dane in this? Where the hell is this House Ironwood in all this? Where the hell is this House Fowler in all this? Somehow she gets control of the whole country side, the whole realm, based on wiping out these 4 people. Her and the Sand Snakes. And they're not even highborn, right? They're basically they're all lowborn bastards. So I don't know, Dog. This is ridiculous. The whole season 5, the whole Dorne plot in general, but especially season 5 and part of season 6, going into season 7, the hosts have done it, in my opinion, and they basically focus on other things that they can adapt from the books.
Baptism scene for Connie's baby, right?
Yep. Boss who was beating up Fredo, and he gets a bullet through the eye, just like One got the arrow through his eye.
All right. Okay, yeah, we're back. Sorry about that. Yeah, all I was gonna say was like, yeah, the Myrcella Baratheon. I would have liked to seen the stuff with what was his name, like Eris Oakheart, and like where she loses her ear. I think that would have been a little more interesting storyline than kind of what we got. I would have done something a little bit more with Arya Hota too, and yeah, these Sand Snakes would have been kind of off in the distance somewhere else, or been done a little better here, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trust Dan and Dave to actually even do any kind of Dorne storyline. I think what they should have done was basically focus and prioritize on the key plot lines of the actual story in the show, and just basically focus on the North, focus on King's Landing, essentially at this point, because everything else is just kind of gratuitous in this point of the storyline, and I don't know. I think it was a wasted opportunity to do more stuff.
I agree. Yeah, it looks like the chat was saying that Dorne caused the buffering.
Yep.
Which I can believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry about that. We got some buffering going on. Basically, refresh your screens or browsers, and things should be back online. Because I have a green health bar on my stream.
But yeah, the main thing I got in my head right now is like Godfather scene, right? And that was a beautiful example there, Mel.
Yeah, I mean, Ellaria Sand is the Godfather with just 3 soldiers, and they take over, a humongous, large realm of Dorne. So it didn't make sense to me, but maybe for some people it did make sense. So let's get on with Dawg's number 3 here. We're out to our top 3 guys. And
all right,
go away, Dawg. Shoot away.
And yeah, my number 3 here, folks, is the sticky fingers guy. And just you talk about just gross me out. If you, I mean, you want to just gross me out, you know, that's how to do it right there, right? And it just feels like we're coming off the rails here with some of the filler jokes and things of that nature. When we do stuff like this, it's like, is this supposed to amuse me? Do I look amused? Right? I mean, yeah. So the butt fingers guy, you know, finger looking good or whatever his name is there. Yeah, I've seen some bad writing in my time, and this is up there. This is like, I mean, sir, and again, this is my favorite show probably of all time ever. You know, things of that nature. But it's like, really, this scene is in this show, right? Why? Is it to get a good laugh? I don't understand it. Can somebody help me out here with this? You know, what's the point of this?
I really can't. I really can't help you out, really, seriously, because I mean, I actually forgot about this scene until I'm looking. No, I saw it recently with just looking at it right now. I totally forgot about this scene. I don't know what that scene was all about, and I think he was just basically jabbing that kid, right? And he thought it was funny.
It was just kind of a build up to where the Hound's going to make his WWE entrance, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been like a fraternity hazing or something like that. Maybe he sticks his fingers up every new recruits' butts. I have no idea.
They could have had him find the breastplate stretcher or something, right? But really, we gotta go here now? That's what we're doing, guys. Are we that edgy now? I got to use the word edgy with Dan and Dave, so I feel kind of cool. So.
Oh,
but
man.
Yeah, it just grosses me out a little bit. I don't know how you folks felt about it, but yeah, it's just not.
Yeah, this hurts actually.
Why is this in my Game of Thrones? That's all I'm asking. Why is this guy's fingers in this guy's, you know what? So it just kind of it rubbed me the wrong way, if you will.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So,
what are your thoughts on sticky fingers, Mel?
All right. So for my number 3, okay. I mean, I'm not going with the pure emotional impact of a WTF moment, but really about the sheer impossibility of these WTF moments, and this is why I call it the Ghost Army of the Vale. Okay. Basically, it was Littlefinger's army and how he actually got to Winterfell and actually surprised the Bolton army. So he basically had a 1,000-man Vale army in heavy armor and horses. They somehow slip into the north without being spotted in an area that the Boltons control. And somehow they surprise, the Boltons, the Umbers, and Karstarks at the Battle of the Bastards. And how? And I'm trying to actually, rationalize how they can do it. And I can't think of a way. Okay, so if they go by land, okay, so that's the start of the area here. They basically have to go up the King's Road until they reach Moat Cailin, which is actually controlled by the Boltons, because that's where Theon Greyjoy went to take it from the Ironborn back in season 4. Okay, so and Moat Cailin is the key to the north. Okay, basically you have to go through Moat Cailin along the King's Road to get to the north. Otherwise, you'd be going through swampland. There's no way a 1,000-man Vale army in heavy armor and horses can go through swampland. Okay, so going through land, being undetected at Moat Cailin is kind of impossible. So the other way they can do is go by sea. Okay, so basically they all meet at Gold Town here at the port, and they basically go by sea, through the Bight, and they basically land in White Harbor. It's the same thing. Okay, White Harbor right now is being controlled by the Boltons, and you have Boltons everywhere around White Harbor. So how can they slip through those lands to meet, to basically go to Winterfell undetected? It's sheer impossibility for them not to be spotted, okay, during this journey, especially a 1,000-man Vale army, in heavy armor and horses, which they're depicted as, okay, and what is it? Is it magic, or do all these guys have transporters from the USS Enterprise that's orbiting over Planetos, and they can just kind of beam down, or do they all have Littlefinger's jetpacks? Because it's impossible to be surprised with a 1,000-man Vale army here. So I thought when I first saw the Vale army, you know, it was a really cool scene, right? It was like the Stannis scene, right? They somehow landed and basically encircled, you know, the wildlings in season 4. You know, they basically wiped them all out. You know, and you didn't really know how Stannis got there, other than the fact that he got some ships and landed north of the wall. But you know, in this case, it's sort of similar, but you know, as opposed to being north of the wall or at the wall, you're actually in a populated area of Westeros, and you know, for not being, I don't know. I mean, you can't wander around the north like that, especially with with the Boltons, Umbers, and Karstocks in control, and basically not be seen, and basically Ramsay Bolton and his allies not be warned at this battle. It didn't make sense to me, and it still doesn't make sense to me. Dog.
Yeah, I think it was just done for, you know, to make it look kind of epic. But you know, I don't know if I've ever actually mentioned this before, but I think it's an absolute direct ripoff of the Lord of the Rings. Well, actually, you know, Return of the King, when King Theoden arrives right at Minas Tirith, right on the Battle of Pelennor. And, you know, so it's like I almost want to I can hear the horns when Littlefinger and them show up. So it's just like it's kind of Hollywooded up, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, so they just, you know, arrive in time to make, you know, John kind of look weak and make, you know, Sansa and Littlefinger look smart, I guess. I don't know what they were going for. And,
yeah.
Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense to me either when I first thought of it.
Yeah,
so, you know, I mean, we got the scene of Sweet Robin saying, "Yeah, we should help Sansa," I think, but you know, I don't know why those guys would actually, you know, give up their strength, which is their position, really, right there. I mean, you can only, you know, it's such a narrow, you know, gap in between, you know, getting into the Vale and things of that nature. Why would you give up your strength and leave your position? Yeah, where'd they get this army from? That's they're like the riders of the Rohan, right?
Yeah, and you know, to me, you know, using your Return of the King analogy, do you remember the Ghost Army that they used against in the Battle of Pelennor Fields? They actually used the Ghost Army, and basically somehow they swept through so the land, right. And basically, you know, at the end of the day, the Ghost Army, you know, that Aragon convinced to basically, you know, convince them to actually, you know, help them for them to actually be released to their vows to defeat, you know, the forces of Mordor. This is kind of like the same thing, you know. This was the Ghost Army of the Vale, you know, that was being used to defeat the forces of Mordor, or forces of Ramsay Bolton here in this case. So, yeah, I mean, I just found it hard to believe, you know, it's hard to fathom on a simple like a logistical basis, you know, knowing, you know, using the maps that we have of Westeros, for them not to be spotted.
And real quickly, like to point out, like one of the great things about the show, the story. I'm sorry, are you still talking?
No, I'm done,
buddy. Sorry. The great things about this show is like this series is so. I mean, there's similarities to things of, you know, pretty much with all fantasy genres. You know, with Lord of the Rings, which I think is the Bible of the fantasy genre, right? But when they're doing things of this nature, that's just they're blatantly obvious to Lord of the Rings fans like myself and you, right? When we see that, we're just thinking, wow, you guys just pretty much ripped off, you know, what they did in Lord of the Rings here, right? And there's several examples of that. You brought them out. Yeah. You know, I pointed out like Theoden. You're bringing out the Army of the Dead, right? I mean, there's you know, we can even talk about the riders of the Rohirrim, right? You know, with Eomer, right? So even, you know, that scene, it's a direct ripoff. So
yeah, I mean, it's great for dramatic effect. I mean, I think it was a little bit, you know, if I can even use the term realistic in a fantasy series, you know, especially Lord of the Rings, it's probably a little bit more realistic in Lord of the Rings than it is now here, because, you know,
right,
yeah, because, you know, you got a lot more space in Lord of the Rings to deal with. In terms of time, you have a lot more time. You have a larger time frame in the Lord of the Rings. But I
used to have a lot of trouble trying to find like examples of where there's similarities, of Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones together. I mean, I could find a few, here and there, but
Hmm.
that is the one that's like that one, just like that sticks out like the sore thumb right there. That one right there.
Yeah, and people in the chat are going, maybe there's somewhere else. I think somebody's saying that maybe they're in Mostown. It's the same issue because in order to get to Mostown, you can't take the land route because you'll be going up north, up north past Winterfell, towards Castle Black because most towns actually at the gift are here just like a little bit southeast of Castle Black. If you go by sea, basically have to land at Eastwatch, which is a port, or somewhere along, the Bay of Seals. You got to find a good port there, right, to land that 1,000-man army with heavy armor and horses, right? And even then, you have the Umbers right, in the map, really, really close to that area. Somebody should have spotted them, okay? Because not all the Umbers, not all the Boltons were at Winterfell, right? They must have had scouting parties and also garrisons at the Dreadfort, at the High Heart, okay, and also at Carhold, so
Yeah, like Ramsey, he knew everything that was going on with
yeah.
John up at the wall, right? You're telling
Yeah.
me he doesn't know about armies coming into the land too,
Hmm.
right? So that, yeah, you're right on point with that, Mel.
Yeah. So, um, anyway, it was tough. It was tough to rationalize how this could have happened, and I still can't rationalize how this could happen. But wait till my next slide to even get into more silliness. So, but we're gonna go with Dawg now for his number two. We're in the top two here, guys.
All right, my number two is right in your face here, folks. Yeah, it is the Wart guy. So I don't know if you folks remember Wart guy from I believe this is season 6. If I remember right. Yeah, Wart man.
Hmm.
But yeah, just more like I talked about sticky fingers last time, right? And these guys are, I think they were trying to show that they're not just exploiting women or things of that nature, or just other kindred spirits and things of that nature, right? But they wanted to show it right in your face this time, folks, because they are edge lords, and they're cutting edge here. They broke new ground on this one, folks, and yeah, it's just disgusting for the sake of being disgusting, and I think we could have done better here. I think we could have done better here. I mean, with all the lore that came, with the faceless men, and things of that nature. What did we really get, right? We just got Arya doing some montages, kind of like Rocky, right, or something, right? And we get a guy with warts in your face, right? So, um, yeah, this is almost like it's a little bit better than Dorne. Well, not this particular scene, right? But like overall, when I look back on Arya heading out to Bravos and versus Dorne, which was worse, which was better here. I think Bravos was a little bit better, right? But overall, there's scenes like this that just make you go, wow. Yep, way to go, Dan and Dave there. Boy, they want an Emmy for this. Seriously, that is that really Emmy worthy? Is this top notch quality? Is this what we're going for here? Is this what's happening today? This is an Emmy award winning show, right? This is like the best television has to offer. Is this dude in your face with his warts? And with that, I will shut up and try to. What's your thoughts on this, Milt?
Well, I mean, it's definitely an example of full frontal nudity gone horribly wrong. Okay, I would definitely agree with you on that. Um, yeah. I mean, there really wasn't a point to this at all. I mean, I guess the overall subplot, right, it was basically to show Arya, right, being part of a troupe of actors. But yeah, I mean, you didn't really need to see this. uh, I I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, maybe they had a nudity budget they had to meet some sort of quota, and they decided to meet that quota earlier on the season. Yeah, I don't know. I have no explanation
I
or
wonder if it would have been better if he was wearing a George W. Bush mask. You think it would have worked better?
uh, probably not.
But yeah, it's rough. No pun intended. All right. That was my number two, folks. Just absolutely gross stuff here,
Yeah, yeah.
folks. Sorry.
It was about 5 seconds of my life that I'll never get back. So, for my number two, it's again, it's one of these unrealistic situations and scenarios. And why the hell do they do things the way they do? Basically by compressing timelines. And I call this the rescue of the white hunters. Okay, it's basically how the hell did Danny and her dragons get there in the span of 24 hours, north of the wall to actually save John and the other white hunters. Okay, so this is impossible. Okay, and I actually spent time on this map and actually started drawing things and basically getting rates and speeds and stuff like that of humans and birds. Just try to figure this out. Okay, so basically you had 3 steps for this rescue to work, right? You basically had to have Gendry run an indeterminate number of miles back to Eastwatch from where they started. Okay, I'm assuming that it was really, really close to Eastwatch. Okay, because if it was like 2 or 3 days away from Eastwatch, Gendry wouldn't be able to run that quickly. So the average human basically walks about 3 or 4 miles per hour. So basically, max maybe about 32 miles in a day, and that's on level ground. And I'm calling these guys superhumans, because they were going uphill and downhill and everything else. But I'm giving them benefit of the doubt. 32 miles 32 miles from Eastwatch was where they were. So basically, Gendry had to run 32 miles back to Eastwatch, and if we assume that he's faster than Usain Bolt, who runs at his peak 27 miles per hour on a 100-yard dash, but continuously over that 32 miles, he'll get back to Eastwatch in about 1.5 hours. Cool. Okay. Because he is Usain Bolt on steroids, and maybe he's going downhill and he has the stamina of Superman. Okay, so secondly, the second step is that Eastwatch then needs to send a raven to Dragonstone, and this is the hardest part to fathom, because Eastwatch to Dragonstone on a map using my scales, using the scales that are provided on these Westeros maps, is about 1,900 miles. Okay, now how fast can ravens go, right? So modern day carrier pigeons can travel about 1,100 miles per day with an average speed of about 50 miles per hour. Okay, that's over a 24-hour period. Okay, so if we say that these are, regular carrier pigeon kind of speeds, okay, we're looking at about a 40-hour trip. Okay, so basically after 24 hours, the raven would be here at the fingers. After 36 hours, the raven would be around here, about 40 miles, 50 miles north of Dragonstone. And then, another 4 hours for them to actually hit Dragonstone. Okay, so, and that's assuming no rest for the bird. And it's assuming that a bird actually flies in a straight line. We know that birds don't fly in a straight line all the time, okay? And depending on a tailwind or a headwind, it could be a bit slower. So, and also birds need to rest and eat as well, right? These aren't superhuman birds. There's no relay system here going on, like you have in the Olympics. Okay, so 40 hours, that's essentially 2 days, right? So already we're about 2 days. Then Dragonstone needs to receive the raven and then basically send dragons back, right? So let's just say dragons are awesome. They're faster than 747s. They can actually fly 500 miles per hour, right? Okay, to get back from Dragonstone to where John and the White Hunters are, okay, about 1,900 miles, that's about a 4-hour trip, okay? So we're actually looking at a minimum about maybe 2.5 days to get back. But yet, for the whole loop to actually work, okay, basically Gendry running, ravens going to Dragonstone back to north of the wall where John is. That's basically about, at a minimum about 2.5 days. But yet they were able to do this in a 24-hour time period. So we have a gap here about 36 hours, or about 30 hours that I can't explain.
I'm trying to remember where Gendry left them, right? Like what the time of day it was, because I know that Thoros dies basically in the morning, right? So there can't be but maybe I'd say 10 hours at best in between there, the time that Gendry leaves to the time Danny shows up.
Yeah.
And distance equals rate times time here, folks.
Exactly.
There's no there's no secret to that, right? So Gendry would have to be like the Flash.
Exactly. Yeah. And or
And he didn't look like he was running all that fast.
yeah,
He looked
yeah,
like,
and even Usain Bolt, right? I mean, his world
right.
record time in 100 meters is roughly about 27 miles per hour.
I'm like,
Okay.
47 years old, and I
Okay.
was always slow. I bet you
Yeah.
I could have outraced Gendry that day. He looked like he was going kind of slow as it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah, they
if
did
they were walking through,
crazy.
I think they had to been close to each watch because if they actually started out at dawn in each watch, okay, and it wasn't quite nightfall yet, right? When they actually met up with the first whites, right? That probably would have been maybe a 9 hour trip or something like that, a 9 hour walk. Okay, up to
Guys, I was wondering if it
get
was
from
kind of like, by the time
okay,
they,
yeah,
got when they were first surrounded,
hmm
at that spot, wasn't that like around? That was probably about twilight, and
exactly, yeah,
Gendry hadn't left them too much, prior
hmm
to that.
yeah.
Losing the hammer, I guess, was huge.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been a lot of weight on that hammer,
I mean, how
and
much did that hammer have had to weigh to have, given them that much speed? It's like that's just absolutely mind-boggling right now.
yeah, and even then, if I mean that's for an average human, right? But remember, they also had guys towing all their supplies, right? Because here's another thing that really bugged me about this rescue. They had absolutely no plan, right? They didn't know where the whites were. I mean, they were just hoping to randomly encounter some whites, right? So they had to bring a bunch of supplies with them, right? It's not like they knew that whites were going to be around within a day's walk. So
Yeah,
so
they're just like tra la la la.
exactly, yeah, right. So I mean, so they must have had supplies at least for a 2 or 3 day round trip at least, right? Just to find these suckers. And
Um,
another pet peeve of mine is the fact that they killed all those whites. They killed the walker that controlled the whites. But why was there only one white that was still up after they controlled that white walker? Who was controlling that one other white? They never explained
oh
that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like because they made this big deep thing with Jorah talking to John,
Yeah,
and maybe that like all of them were made right by the same white, except for this one guy that we need to bring to Cersei next episode, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
things that didn't make sense, but now it just kind of makes they kind of gave a to me it, spoilers, folks, possibly, I guess, right? My theory is that because now Beric Dondarrion, right? He's how he
mhm,
told John, kill that one
mhm.
and you kill them all, right?
Yeah,
So I think that's kind of how it's going to go down eventually. John will kill the Night King, and then they'll all drop,
yeah.
kind of like in Lord of the Rings.
And somebody's asking me about whether or not I consider topography in my calculations. I'm going, no, I did not consider topography in my calculations. In fact, I'm actually taking out the topographic effect in these calculations. If there was topography, it would be a lot longer for Genji to run back into the wall. Okay, yeah, because you also have snow as well as topography impeding
Yeah,
his
I think
progress.
they were just trying to go with he's a Baratheon. He runs like a deer. That's what they were going for on the show.
Maybe Genji's an animagus from Harry Potter. He could just basically turn
Yeah, he
himself.
might be actually.
He turns himself into a deer, but perhaps. All right. So anyway, that's my beef about the rescue of the White Hunters and why it cannot. It doesn't make sense for this thing to happen within a 24-hour time period. That's all.
Now, how fast are these dragons going, Mel? Did you?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
might have
yeah. In
missed
step
that.
3, I'm assuming that the dragons are flying at about 500 miles per hour, which is about the speed of a 747.
Right. Yeah, I was just
So,
wondering. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's probably how fast they go, I guess.
yeah, exactly. So to go 2,000 miles, it would be about a 4 hour trip back.
Man, Littlefinger's faster, and Varys is
Yeah.
too.
I mean, maybe with a nice tailwind, they can get there in maybe 3 hours and 30 minutes.
But yeah, out of all that craziness that's going on, I still Gendry, being able to run all the way there, and
Yeah, yeah,
that one's still just I
yeah.
think that's the most impressive thing.
I mean, Genji running there, I mean, granted, give Genji like 3 hours to make that superhuman run. But the Ravens, to me, doesn't make sense because the Ravens have the longest to go. I mean, they actually have a 1900 mile trip from Eastwatch to Dragonstone. And these carrier pigeons, modern day ones can only go 50 miles per hour. Okay, so times 20 hours in a day, 24 hours. Okay, I'm saying 4 hours they need to rest. That's 1,000 miles, and I'm giving these guys 1,100 miles per day. So
yeah, like 1,200 miles, right?
yeah.
So yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. And that's at least a 2-hour trip, a 2-day trip just for the Ravens to get there. So,
but again, these are the folks that put like George W. Bush's head on a pike and brought you sticky fingers, folks. So I didn't expect them to be, deep thinkers and things of that nature, I guess.
All right.
Or think their audience is smart. Right?
All right. Well, I think we're down to our number ones, guys. So let's go with Dawg's number one. Tell us what it is.
And my number one, folks, is this man right here. What's he doing on this show? That's just absolutely. And I had no idea who this person was, right, until after the show, right? So to give you a little background here, right? Seeing this person right here, like. This scene, I thought was just absolutely. It was like out of that whole entire episode. I'm trying to think of which episode this is. It's like season 7, episode 1, maybe, or episode 2, possibly. Right? Might be episode 1. But it's like I was like this. The scene made absolutely no sense to me. I thought it was like the dumbest scene in the entire episode. And then I started seeing all this backlash about this person, right? Ed Sheeran. I'd never heard of him before ever, right? And, I guess he's a big famous singer, things of that nature, right? And they just decided to put him on the show because he's friends with Arya or Maisie Williams, right? So they're friends and they're buddies in real life or something, right? Or she, she idolizes him or something like that. So they thought it would be nice to put him on the show for her, right? And when they do things of that, so that's what really chapped my my hiney, if you will, when I found out about this person's actually a celebrity, if you will, right? And they just did it for that, because I know a lot of the the folks in the community, the fans that watch the show, things of that nature, right? They put a lot of time and effort into into the show, and it's just kind of like you're just kind of wasting space on things that you could have gave us a little bit more. Arya being badass, if you will, right, would have been a little bit better. How about some more wolves or something, right? Can't Arya come in and just whack all these Lannister soldiers, if you will, too? So, yeah, I hated this scene. I hated the song they were singing. I hated the scene prior to knowing that Ed Sheeran was in it. But then when I found out that Ed Sheeran was in it, and what the show writers had done here, that really got me thinking about how they just pretty much slapped the fans right in the face, putting him in it. So I'm hoping to see, though, I think they can redeem this maybe, right? If like Cersei meets her demise or the Mountain, if you will, right? Maybe Arya has his face and he sings like the Rains of Castamere or something, right? And then finishes off Cersei. That would be kind of like maybe they could kind of redeem that. But I hope she has his face in the bag. That's my number one, Milt.
Yeah, maybe they can redeem it by making Ed Sheeran Azor Ahai, and he's the one that's actually going to defeat the others. With Lightbringer. So
I still have yet to even hear him sing. So I just when I heard about this, I was like, this isn't Game of Thrones to me, right? And this is just some filler content. And to find out, it absolutely was. It was just some filler content to make the actress happy. I love Maisie Williams, all that stuff. I love Arya. Don't get it twisted, folks. But when we're just doing these kind of things just to please the actresses, and we're not looking at the big picture of the show, and just. I don't know what to say about it. It just boggles my mind why folks do that to their fans.
Yeah. I was surprised that Ed Sheeran actually got into the show. I mean, maybe he wanted to do it, and it was just kind of like a free cameo, and then they didn't actually have to pay him much to do this.
Make him a white or something, or or something where we don't have to see him. But I was a big, huge LeBron James fan for like ever too, right?
Mhm.
And if they put LeBron James, I'd have been just as upset if I saw LeBron James in that scene.
Yeah.
I don't know how it was for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was they're buddies in real life, so why not have a buddy, why not make them buddies in the show? I don't know. I mean, it didn't. I mean, there really wasn't a point of him doing it. I mean, if he just did a cameo as a Lannister soldier, I mean, I really didn't have an issue with this guy being on the show. I mean, because I didn't even know honestly who he was and what he actually sang, but I guess it was just all the hype around it, about him appearing on it was probably the most annoying thing.
I like this old guy in the back of that. I don't know if you can see that picture there with Maisie and Ed. Do you see that old guy in the back, like looking at?
Yeah.
He's like looking at Ed, like, man, how'd you get on that? That like if I was like 20 years older, that's what I'd look like if I was in that room. Yeah. I'd be right with that guy, just staring at him, like, yeah. Are you in that scene?
It's definitely what we call a photobomb opportunity, and he basically photobombed it. Photobombed it.
He kind of looks like Jack Ruby behind him or something. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, he looks like a really rich millionaire, actually. Or billionaire. Right. I don't know.
Yeah,
okay,
that was my number one though.
Yeah, Dawg's number one. Ed Sheeran's guest appearance on Game of Thrones. My number one. Okay, and I think people know my beef with this character and the whole storyline is freaking Arya Stark, or what I call her in chats, Wolverine, because of her miraculous or mutant powers of healing. Okay, so you got the picture of Arya. She equals Wolverine from the X-Men. Okay, and this Wolverine character, if anyone doesn't know him, he has basically his power is basically he can heal at ridiculous rates. Okay, and let's step through the timeline here, okay, of how Arya and Bravos, and especially what leads me to this ridiculousness of a scene here, okay. So, she leaves the Faceless Man. She knows that leaving the Faceless Man is a death sentence, but she's okay with that. She's kind of hanging out, with a really nice view, of a canal, with the Titan of Bravos in the background, all peaceful. All of a sudden, an old lady comes behind her and basically guts her, shanks her with a knife and twists it in her abdomen, in her gut, okay? The waif. Okay, somehow, she escapes from the waif, lands and basically jumps into a canal. I don't know if you know, but canals are very, very filthy, okay? In the Middle Ages, that's where they dumped all their wastes into, okay? Were these big rivers and canals in the cities. So, a lot of germs there, is bunch of really bad bacteria. Okay, so already, her wounds are being at risk of infection. Okay, she swims out the canal, walks down the street all bloody, and finds herself at the Mummers company's headquarters, wherever they are. Okay, Lady Crane finds her, somehow, basically brings her back to her apartment undetected. Okay, and heals her with some good old milk of the poppy. Okay, and tender loving motherly care, and then after that she gets better within a night from, again, a shank wound into the gut with a nice little twist in it. See that first picture? Got that good old twist in there, just to make sure that her intestines are kind of deformed and ripped up. So basically she heals, no sign of infection either, evidently. She's cool, man. She's the Faceless Man, right? So then, she walks, so basically the waif goes there, kills Lady Crane, Arya goes, oh shit, she needs to run away. And now she's like this parkour expert, right? Where she's going through the streets of Bravos, jumping off cliffs and buildings, like a parkour expert, okay? That you see in the movies. All with this big old wound in her gut that evidently doesn't matter anymore. She's okay now. So I'm just going, what was in that milk of the poppy that made her heal so fast? Okay, if we assume that she doesn't have any, mutant regenerative powers in one day. Anybody?
Yeah, she might have had like one of those underdog energy pills or something. That's what I'm thinking. Like when Shoe Shine Boy would become underdog.
I mean, how is this possible?
I don't get it either. And then, to premise this, like she's like she just joined like the League of Assassins, like the Sith Lords, if you will, right? And like they've been keeping tabs on her for like the whole time that she's been, in Bravos, right? I mean, like they even like when she was blind, they were beating on her every day, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would she just decide to nonchalantly just walk around that town like, like everything is just fine, right?
Uh-huh.
And yeah, just leave herself open like that. That was bad as it was. But then yeah, they're gonna give you even more of that, right? She's got these awesome Wolverine regeneration powers, folks, and yeah, she cannot be defeated.
Yeah, she cannot be defeated, and I still think Lady Crane probably put some nice magic dust in that milk of the poppy to make her heal well too. I think that was part of the whole spiel too. So she could have been. I mean, Lady Crane could have been like a Mary Mazdur of Bravos, but on a good side.
Right.
Yeah,
I wish she would have kind of made it. She was kind of the saving grace of some of those episodes. But I mean, if you take away like some of this stuff and the wart guy, some of that at those later scenes like at the theater and with the actors and that those scenes were a little bit better than some of the other stuff we got.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is bad. This bad writing is what it is. So
yeah, when I first saw this, I mean, like the other two I did, with the whole timing and the army and the Ravens. Okay, I had to kind of think about it, right, in terms of trying to get an idea of the distances required and the timeline required. But just looking at this, I knew right away that this was freaking impossible.
Right, and then the way, the waif there, right? How she's chasing Arya around like she's Michael Myers or something, or Terminators.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was a screenshot out of Terminator 2, right? Where where that Jason Patrick character, I think that was the name, right, was chasing the kid.
This boy?
Yeah, a kid around everywhere. Yeah, it's exactly the same. I mean, I was expecting the Hound to come in there and basically, protect Arya. Somehow he would have made it in there, and then the Hound would have basically killed the wave. Sort of like how, Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator 2 movie would have, protected the kid from the other Terminator.
I mean, they must have like some super powerful tetanus shots or something.
Yeah. Well, evidently, milk the poppy cures all.
Or maybe what's in the sewers did something.
Yeah, I mean,
I would think that would have side effects, that are not wanted, as opposed to, having the sewer of healing. Where you heard it here, you heard it here first, folks. Yeah, sewer of healing.
Yeah. I mean, maybe she went back to she does go back to the House of Black and White. Maybe she gets some of that water and rubs it over her wound, and that heals it. So,
I do have one question for you. Do you think that there's any more faceless men other than Jaqen?
Oh yeah, I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are many faceless men.
They haven't like really showed anybody on the else on the show. I mean, other than like we see. People like moving bodies and things of that nature, people behind the scenes, but are they actually true Sith Lords? I always thought these guys are kind of like the Sith, and there's only like, there can only be two.
Nah. I mean, it's sort of like more like the Batman movie with the League of Assassins and, Ra's Ghul, right? That was his name, right? Ra's Ghul?
Yeah, the Legion of
Assassins.
Or not the Legion of Doom.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there are a lot more. I think they just wanted to focus on Arya's story, and in that case, Arya's story really, from the books, only deals with Jaqen and and the Kindly Man and the Waif. So they just wanted to focus on that aspect. Plus, they needed to save more budget, for Jaime and Bronn and Dorne and the Sand Snakes.
Yep, and more travel expenses. Well, they don't have to worry about travel expenses with the dragons or ravens anymore either.
Yeah,
they can just go. Just like Littlefinger and Varys, they can just be, here 1 minute and across the other side of the map the next.
Yep.
And they're like, Screw physics.
No, remember guys in the chat, when you compress time and space, out of the ordinary, out of the realm of Earth processes that we observe, then it must be magic.
There, yeah, got magic legs, Lieutenant Dan.
So we're done, guys. So we're gonna go ahead right now and just recap before we take off for the night. So let's just go ahead and start at our dishonorable mentions. And Dawg.
Yep. So mine was George W. Bush on a stick.
Yeah, and my dishonorable mention was A Dragon Deal Gone Wrong, starring Krasny's Naklos and Astapor.
Yep. And yep, my number 5 was Romeo and Juliet.
Yep, Tragic Lovers. And my number 5 was The Nerfing of 1-1. Level 10 to Pincushion.
Right. And my number 4 was Crumb Bum Arya Hota.
And my number 4
noob.
Yep, and my number 4 was overall The Conquest of Dorne by Michael Corleone, aka Ilaria Sand. And wiping out 4 people.
Yeah. And we're on my number 3 was Sticky Fingers.
Sorry, I'm still laughing about this one because I totally forgot about this, and then when you brought it up again, I can't help but just chuckle at this thing.
Don't get any on you.
All right. Best comedy moment of all time, Dan and Dave. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, good job, fellas. Just stellar, right? I mean, Emmy award winning here. Think of that.
Okay, and my number 3 on a more serious note is the Ghost Army of the Vale, and how the hell they did not get spotted on their way to Winterfell.
That's a fantastic one too. And my number 2, folks, was Wartman. Dig 'em.
Again, a clear example of full frontal nudity gone wrong.
Just bad. Just Emmy award-winning show. It's supposed to be Emmy award-winning.
And my number 2 was basically the whole rescue of the White Hunters north of the Wall, and how it was impossible for that to happen within a 24-hour time period with the math. And number 1, Dawg, for you.
And my number 1, folks, was just absolutely blatant cameo by a celebrity that I've never heard of prior to, or I haven't heard sing yet, and I'm never going to, just because this was so blatant. I blame the actor too. I actually blame him too, because he should have been like, you know what, I probably shouldn't do something like this, right? Some fans like like Dawg might be upset, but no, did he care about Dawg's little old feelings? No, he didn't, right? So I'm looking right at you, Ed Sheeran.
Dawg wants to punch Ed Sheeran out of the mirror for this one,
or give him rabies at least,
And my number 1 was Arya Stark, otherwise known as Wolverine, and her miraculous, regenerative powers, and Lady Crane's magic milk with the poppy, and
yep.
And her sudden onset of parkour skills.
I can't think of anybody that can beat her, dude. I can't think of how you can beat her.
I mean, we had some other ones too. I had some other ones like the Golden Crown that didn't make any sense, and I'm sure you've had some other ones too that could have been on this list. But man,
there's a lot.
I guess at the end of the day, there still is a lot less poor scenes than there are, great scenes in the show.
Absolutely. I still think it's the best show on television. I'll take season 5 any day, compared to anything else that's on television right now. I'd rather watch, season 5 than anything else that's on television, right? But, there's still things that make us go, WTF, right? Even like some of the issues we had with folks, being able to fast travel from here to there. It was kind of still helped by, we still have great characters, right? So like the next episode, we get to see Brienne and the Hound kind of talk to one another, right? We got to see, Jorah back with other folks talking, and Jon and Cersei and all these characters that we still love, and still got to see all those, right? So it definitely outweighs some of the WTF moments that we have, right? But some of them are just so blatant that I just have to say something.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it still is one of the best shows, on TV, and most of the time it is deserving of its Emmy awards for sure. But when the writing is really this bad, it's really hard to ignore sometimes. And that's why we did this stream tonight, right? It was to basically kind of do our own research and kind of come up with our own bad moments, because it's cathartic in a way. It makes you realize how good the show is later on when you do watch it.
All right. Oh, it's all in good fun, right? And it just because I love the show so much doesn't mean I'm just like blindly like everything's great about it, right? There's I'm not afraid to come out and say, hey, this could have been done better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could have done the Arya scenes better, right? We could have done Sam and Gilly better, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We could have used somebody else's head other than George W. Bush's head on that pike. I mean, really? They went there?
Hey, I don't know. I don't know about the spiked head thing, At the end, maybe after a few days rotting away, they all look alike, right? So, and maybe Dan Dave didn't have the budget to wait a few days for the head to rot properly, so you can't recognize them.
It just seems like something like some high school kids would do, like they're like making their first film or something, right? Mm-hmm. Like making a fan made film, they would do something like that.
Yeah,
I just think I expect better out of these folks. That's all.
Great. So I think with that, I think we should end the stream. Thank you everybody for coming out here. I guess we can do our shout outs first. I can see, okay, we got Marie from Game of Theories with Marie, and Unkindness of Ravens from Edgar Allan Poe. Phantom D. Saint. Rhodes Rants, thanks Rhodes for stopping by. Connie Super, we got Cardinal Doomsday, AU Pack Meal, Chrissy of Old Zones, OTDA, Bubba, Living My Rhapsody. Who else have we got here? Peter Griffin showed up.
Marie's here.
Yep.
Chrissy Cardinal, Rhodes Rants on Star Wars, Living My Rhapsody.
Carrie McDonald. Thanks for coming out, Carrie.
AU Pack Meal, Cindy Sammy.
Mm-hmm.
Going through here.
Yeah. We got Bobby Catalano. Thank you for coming out.
Oh yeah, Bobby was here. JD was here earlier too. OTDA. Carrie McDonald. And I think we covered most of Mr. Saint, everybody here. Thanks for coming out. I love doing these.
Yeah, great. And I think, and we did miss you. No offense intended. We didn't mean to miss you. I can't screw up all the way up to the beginning. So Dawg, what's going on with you, and where can we find you next?
So yeah, what's going on with me right now? Next, I'm gonna have something very soon, folks. So some updates, things of that nature, right? As you can see, I got this little box back here. I just got this today, so I'm working on getting a green screen set up here, right? So I'm gonna have some fun playing around with that. So I'm kind of uber excited to get this thing out of the box and do some different types of backgrounds and things of that nature. And maybe I can put myself like flying with Princess Leia in outer space or something like that. So looking forward to kind of playing around with that. I'm gonna have some. I'm gonna be doing a live stream very soon. We'll get updated on some weekend box office news here. Probably tomorrow we'll do that.
Great, and remember next week probably we're gonna be back on Dawg's channel for another segment of our top fives. I'm not sure if we've actually landed on the category yet, but I
think we were talking about doing. Are you still down for possibly raid night?
Yeah, we can do a raid night. Yeah, that'd be kind of fun. The raid night would be explained later on, but that's a really cool concept that we have going on.
We have a couple. I'll definitely keep you posted, folks. We'll be here. Yeah, next Sunday, right?
Yep, next Sunday, and we guarantee it, and we guarantee that if nothing else, it'll be fun and
Definitely.
hilarious.
So next Sunday, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, folks.
Yep. And remember, guys, you can always find me, the Restoration Ninja, on the Citadel Trivia every couple of weeks, hosting Jeopardy streams. And thanks a lot, everybody, for coming out to our Fire and Blood trivia the other night. And I'll be probably uploading another stream pretty soon that I can't talk about right now, but it's been done before, as usual. So, and yeah, and with Dawg, thanks a lot, Dawg, for coming here again. You know, all these kind of weekly top fives, really, it's really great. And, I look forward to it every week.
Definitely, Mel. Yeah. I appreciate it. And I love doing these. I look forward to them on Sundays as well. And thanks for coming out here tonight, folks. Appreciate it.
Yep. And with that, we'll just go ahead and basically bid our adieus, and we'll see you later.